All right, let's talk Ruke Orhorhoro is, I believe, how you say his name. I was listening to other commentators say it, and it seems like on a lot of his like highlights and stuff, even they didn't want to say it because they're concerned or saying it wrong. So we'll call him Ruke throughout this video, I think. But I wanted to at least give do my best for the pronunciation. He's a really interesting player. So the Falcons, after their very controversial first selection of Michael Penix, then got people going again by drafting him over Johnny Newton, who a lot of people thought should have been a mid-first rounder, who fell to the second, and the Falcons decided to pass on. So for Ruke, why? What do they see in him? Well, if you look at his Pro Football Focus page, the numbers here aren't great. Run defense is solid, but like nothing otherworldly. It's good for college, don't get me wrong, but for an NFL prospect, usually you kind of want these grades to be like, the top guys are getting in the 90s. Usually you want at least 80s for both of these, and the fact that his pass rush grade is in the 60s isn't ideal. Now, some people are going to say, it's PFF, who cares? Well, I care because at the defensive line position, guys who have good grades at these things tend to have a pretty good hit rate at the NFL level. I made a video, I believe last year, maybe even 2 years ago, kind of seeing which, do grades translate or not. At the defensive line position, they do very well. Now, again, there's things that are on the positive side. Run defense grade, as I said, is solid. Pass rush win rate isn't bad. But as a whole, you look at this, and this is not why he's getting drafted. It's just not. So why is he getting drafted? I went back and watched some film, and it's fair to say he does not win as consistently as other guys do. That's just true. However, going over here, he does have his wins, and his wins are just like really impressive and kind of show off his athleticism. He is kind of the idea with him is, let's get a guy who is physically imposing enough and physically gifted enough that hopefully we can mold him to be an elite level player. The difference between him and Johnny Newton is they feel he is more of a high ceiling type guy, even if Newton might have the higher floor. So let's talk about if that's true or not. So the play you see on the screen is going to be a guard who's going to pull around to block him. That's the way this play is designed to work. And when it begins, you see this guard come over and is honestly in pretty good position to try and make a play on Ruke right here. But watch how Ruke responds. He essentially just levels him and is able to not quite make the tackle, but still, you see that power, right? And you see the athleticism and power constantly. I shouldn't even say constantly, but when you watch his film, every game you see a play like this or two. I think what you just want is more consistency. Because again, something like this, every now and then he shows like really good handwork, which kind of drives me crazy because you just don't see it that consistently. But there are guys who are athletes who you just don't even see capability of having good hands or anything like that. That is not Ruke. He will show the flashes of it. Something like this, it's you have a guard who's going to block him one-on-one. When this play begins, you see, look at that hand placement to get around so quickly. So for the guard, all he can really do is try and push Ruke towards the top of the screen right here, get him away from the quarterback. And that's what he does. So it didn't quite get the win, but still disrupted the play enough. And again, you see the flashes, right? He might not be a complete product, but at least there are things that he can do. Whereas some guys are drafted who, can't do this type of stuff. So that's good to see. Something like this, they ran a lot of stunts at Clemson, which makes me wonder if they're going to try and do that a lot here in Atlanta. But what's going to happen is you see where he is on the field. You're going to, again, run a stunt. So essentially him and the other interior defensive linemen are going to kind of swap where they're at. You see how when this play begins, it worked out pretty well. The guard does eventually get over to try and block Ruke on this one, but due to kind of the quickness and just a good play call in general by Clemson, they're in a pretty good position right here. Now Ruke is going to do something else that's going to be pretty good, where, the last time I showed you kind of got pushed out of the way. This time he does not, is able to, get over. He didn't make the sack there, but only because someone else got there first, right? So definitely a good job by him. Again, he will absolutely be capable of making these splash plays. I do feel like a lot of times he shows like a really good play that doesn't result in like getting a pressure or a sack. Like that happens as well, which is, I don't really know exactly how to take that. So like, for example, something like this, going up one-on-one against a center, which is an ideal situation, right? Center might take a little bit longer to get their hands up and all of that. So, it's a good situation for Ruke. And you see when this play begins, watch him really shove that center backwards to where the quarterback is going to try and step up in the pocket. But, Ruke did a really good job of kind of disrupting that play and making it more difficult. Now, Ruke's also not able to reach out when the quarterback runs by him and, ends up giving up some yards there. Isn't able to quite make the play, but, shows off enough that makes you say, man, if you could kind of reach out and make that tackle, that would have been awesome. So I think that's honestly, quite frankly, that is most of what I see when I'm watching him. Those are the flashes are like, man, it feels like there is a potential for really good stuff here, even if it's not quite there yet. But then there's stuff like this where it's a double team block on Ruke right here, and watch what happens. You see when this play begins, so double team block, you're not expecting a lot. Eventually, though, the left guard gets off this block, but doesn't matter. Center's in pretty good position to make this play. Well, again, this is the play you look at. If you're an Atlanta fan, and you're kind of like, I don't know about this is what's going to get you excited. Watch him just drive back that center. He does get the sack right there. So again, when he shows the flashes, when he shows the highlights, they are awesome. You definitely want more consistency. But a play like this, there's just no doubt about it. This is just a really impressive play that a lot of other guys can't do. So watching the film, I don't really have many questions as to what the Falcons liked about Ruke here at all. There's plenty of things to like, and I totally get why they view him as a prospect. I think one of the things you kind of have to think about, though, is everything I'm saying about these splash plays, Johnny Newton kind of also can do. So yeah, I don't fully understand. I don't get this. I don't. I do think that he is someone who should be a pretty solid rotational interior defensive lineman for them because, honestly, kind of underrated. The Falcons' interior defensive line could be pretty solid next year with the addition of, Ruke, who should be a good player for them. You have David Onyemata, who has, done a lot of good things as a veteran player, but is still playing at a good, high level. You have Grady Jarrett. Yeah, that guy's pretty good. So you have some, very quality players, even if a couple of them are getting up there in age. I think you maybe would still like to beef up that edge rush position, of course, but he's someone who I do think is a quality player that should help them out. Is this a bit of a reach for me? Honestly, it's really just like let's pretend Johnny Newton wasn't there, because part of it too is I think Johnny Newton was a really good player. Maybe I'm wrong about that. The NFL wasn't as high on him, so it's possible that there's actually reasons why people are lower on him, 100%. But let's just say that he was gone, forget about him. Would this be worth a early second round pick? I think I would probably say it's maybe a touch early, but not a disaster by any means. So I think that's kind of maybe the more fair way to look at it. So again, he is someone who is a very developmental guy. The ceiling is absolutely, very, very high. He could be an elite level player. And there is a chance that people look back on this in 5 years and say, wow, Jackson, you were a complete moron. That guy's been awesome. But I still think that the thought process, and I am someone who believes that you actually, the best time to make an argument about a draft pick is right after the draft pick was made, not 5 years later, because 5 years later you can use hindsight. And as of right now, I still think there's enough reasons to critique this move, but I think there are still reasons to defend it as well. And I do think he could be a pretty good player. So while we can sit here and debate left and right, how smart of a move was this? Did you get, did you maximize value? All of that stuff. They still got a pretty good player. At the end of the day, that's the goal of the draft, is to get better, and they got better. So, there you go. But yeah, those are my thoughts on this move. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.